We are now on the top of Kuf Ches Amid Beis, and we're continuing the Mishnah. Zaklal, get achar miyun, asura lachzalo. If he was married to the first husband twice, once with get, once he got rid of her, with get, and the second time the marriage terminated with miyun, then, I'm sorry, if the first termination of the marriage was miyun, the second was with get, asura lachzalo, it's machzir grushos, because the last separation was through a get. But miyun, achar get, the first separation was a get, and the last with miyun, muteres lachzir. He's allowed to remarry, because the miyun at the end is mevatel the get that came early. Invite in the Mishnah. Fine, he gave her miyun. She gave him miyun, we should say. She got married to an Adam Sheni. He divorced her. And then she got married li acher Adam Shlichi, miyun abo. Li acher, she gets married to a fourth person, v'gersha. Do you notice the pattern? It's always Gerushin and then Miyun, and then Gerushin and then Miyun. Li'acher, after the get of the Revi, she marries a fifth person who may in a bow, and she does Miyun. Now she wants to go back and be remarried to one of her previous husbands. That numbered 5. Zaklal, kol sheyotzei mena beget, asura lachzalo. So if you remember, the second marriage terminated with a get, the fourth marriage terminated with a get, she cannot remarry them. Even though afterwards she went out with miyun. But that's a miyun of another person, not the miyun of the same Baal. And that miyun could not be mevatel the get. But the miyun, those marriages, that's 1, 3, and 5, muteres lachzalo, because the miyun is okay the nesulam afreya, it's not called machzir grushos. So now again, just to summarize, as we project ourselves to the Gemara, if the last yitzia was miyun, then we say that miyun is mevatel the get, and she's not considered a grusha, and the first husband to whom she was mamanes could remarry. The Gemara now postulates, or shall we say analyzes the Reish and the Seifa, and finds an inconsistency in this Mishnah between the Reisha, where there was only one Baal that wants to remarry his wife, and we spoke about the last Yitzir was B'miyun, and the Seifa where there were multiple Bailim. Alma, from the Reisha, we see that Osi Miyun and Mevatel get. And in the Seifa, Hamamenes Be'ish, V'niseis li'acher v'gersha, li'acher v'miyun abo, li'acher v'gersha, etc., li'acher v'miyun abo, zakal kol sheyotzei beget, asur lachzalo, v'meyin muteres laso. So we see from the Seifa the Mishnah that even if after the get of the Rishon, there was a miyun to terminate the marriage to the Sheni, that miyun is not mafkir the get. And as far as the Rishon who gave her a get, he cannot remarry her. Alma lo osi miyun dechavrei v'vatal gita dideh. So the Gemara doesn't see any logical reasoning to justify a distinction between the same person or another person. Oso Adam or Sheni, Shnei Anosh. And just like in the case of Oso Adam, the Mi'il Basof is mevatel the get, allowing for him to remarry her. So too in Shnei Anoshim, the law should be the same. That even though the Rishon was Megarisha, but afterwards she got from the Sheni a miyun, the miyun of the Sheni should be mevatel the get from the Rishon and allow her to remarry her first husband. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, He's so impressed by this kasha that Tavra, Misha Shanazu, Lo Shanazu, the Resha is authored by one view, one Tana, and the Sefer by another Tana. Omar Rav my Kusha. What kind of a contradiction do you find here from these two dinim, such that you have to assume it's written by two authors? Dilma, perhaps, Miyun Didei, Mevatel Get Didei, Miyun Dechavri, Lo Mevatel Gita Didei. If there was a miyun from that same husband who had given her a get previously, that miyun is mevatel the get. The miyun to him is mevatel the get that he gave her. But miyun de chavre, his friend's miyun, that's not going to be mevatel his get. What koch does his friend's miyun have to be mevatel his get? And now the Gemara rejects this distinction in Rav of Rav. What is the logic that compels, or let's say, underlies this halacha, that the fact that she was mama'enes with another husband has no impact on the get that she received from the first husband? And the Gemara introduces now a concept called Makeres Rimizosa. Rabbanan Choshesh that if the Yitzia from her first husband was his decision, he might change his mind. He got angry at her, whatever it was, and now he realizes, hey, I made a mistake. But he has a problem because she was married by a second husband. But Aidi de Makeres Rimizosa Ukritosa, she has had an intimacy with him, the first husband, and she knows his sign language, the way he blinks at her. Ozil, the husband, the first husband, now that he has changed his mind and he really desperately wants to remarry her, he's going to go mishabish. He's going to mess up the marriage to the second husband. How? Maisi law. He's going to be mishadalosa. He's going to try to use his remizos and his kritos to tempt her and tell her, hey, I'm waiting for you. And he's going to cause her to want to be mamayin in the second husband. And that's why the Rabbanan said that the second miyun for the second husband will not permit the first husband, by being mavatal's get, to remarry her. Because if you do that, then the first husband might use his clever methodology to mess up the second marriage. So the Gemara now rejects Rava, because if that be the case, then miyun didei nami lo levatel gita didei. Even in a case where after his get, she had a miyun, so she went out from the second husband, b'miyun. From the first husband, she went out beget. Then there was a miyun, and the Mishnah allows the first husband to remarry her. But wait a minute. If he knew her so intimately, and he gave her a get, and now he wants to be mispayes, then I did my keres b'rimosa also mishabish umaisila. He's going to entice her under the second husband to be ma'enes so that he can remarry. How can you allow him to remarry? So the Gemara rejects this and reinterprets Rav. Hak for a shabcha, below is shabsha. In the case of the husband, after he delivered a get to her, He tried to be Matthias her. So, again, I just got to get the mathematics here. Right, so what happened? He married a Ketana, gave her a get, then remarried her, and she was Mama Enes. So it seems that he was a big flop. He tried very hard to get her back, and yet on the second round, she was Mama Enes. So therefore, we're not choshesh that when she gets married after the miyun to another husband, that he's going to mess up her marriage with the other husband because he already tried on the second round to bring her close and he failed miserably. But in the second case, where he was Megarisha, she married someone else because of the get, based on the get. Now, if he's allowed to remarry her, assuming she'll be Mamanus, then he's going to cause her miyun. And this time, his methodology with the Kritzosa, Rimosa, it might be successful. Ela'i Kasha, Mara says, if you want to ask a Kasha from the Mishnah, then ask a Kasha of the Chavri ad the Chavri Kasha. There's a stira here in the din of a miyun bechavero, whether it's mevatel, the get of the rishon. Because the Mishnah says, miyun bo v'chazira, he remarried her after the miyun, and then nasan lo get, v'nises li acher, v'nis armalo nisgarsha, asura lachsarbo. Lo, she can't go back to the rishon, because the very last breakup of the marriage was with a get. The Gemara's medayik taima dinis armala o nisgarsha. Her second husband died or gave her a get. Then she cannot go back to the first husband who had given her a get. But if she terminated the second marriage, not because she received a get or he died, but rather she was Mama Enesbo, then the implication is a mutalatzal, that the miyun of his friend, of the second husband, is mavatal, the get from the first husband. Alma diasi miyun bechavri mavatal gita didei. That the Rishon is allowed to remarry her without an Isur of Machzir Gushoso, because the miyun of the second guy is mavatal the get of the first guy. Uramini, but now we have to ask a steer from the Sefer. Ketana mima'enes be'ish, v'niseis li'acher, v'girsha, and after the gershon from the sheni, she got married lishacher to a shlishi, umianobo, zaklal, kol sheyotza mimenu beget, asura lachsa, the miyun, muteres lachsalo. Alma lo osi miyun de chavre, umevatel gita dideh. So in the ratio we were medayik that if the sheni was Mama Enes, then she could go back to the Rishon. And that the miyun is mevatel get. In the Sefer, it's clear, it's explicit that the miyun of the sheni is not going to in any way allow the Rishon to remarry her. They're two different Amorim. Ula Amar, no. You can reconcile these two parts of the Mishnah. Kigon sheshilsha begitin. He divorced her 3 times. The meschazia kigdola. 3 gittin to a ketana is pretty rare. And then the miyun, the echad, is not able to mevatel the get of 3 different gittin. So it means that she received 3 different gittin. And in this case, the miyun is not going to be mevatel the get of the other 3 gittin, of the other 3 megarsh. But if he divorced her only 2 times, and then she was memayenes b'shlichi, then this miyun is mevatel 2 gittin that came before it, and she's allowed to go back to the 2 rishonim. The Gemara clarifies now, man tanoi, who are the tanoim that argue this out, where the miyun and sheni is mevatel to get of the rishon. The Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, my desiv, posgenecha, meimenu bekesef shasinu, eitzenu b'mafir yavo. In order to learn Torah, which is metaphorically compared to mayin, you got to pay money for that. You want to receive an eitzah, good counsel in Divrei Torah, then you really should be paying a price for that. So when do we fulfill this pasuk of Mimenu v'kesef chasinu? Ishasa sakana. It was a gzera of the Malchus that they shouldn't be studying Torah. Nisbaksha halacha zu. And during that period of sakana, this question came up. Does the miyun of the sheni mevatel the get of the rishon or not? And they didn't know an answer. So they wanted to go into the prison where Rabbi Akiva was incarcerated and ask him the question. Scharo, they paid a person out of Echad Arbami Osuz, a massive amount of money. Bishalo, he went into the Beis Hasurim, probably disguised or something. And this person asked Rabbi Akiva, Beis Hasur v'yasa. They sent him to ask Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, v'netzivim v'yasa. And the first husband would not be allowed to remarry his wife after she was married to someone, and there was a miyun. Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yossi, L'zulo hutzrachnu. There was no need to ask a shliach and pay him such an exorbitant fee. There was never a suffix about that. For sure, nobody would argue she's allowed to go back to the Rishon. And here's where Rabbi Shmuel introduces a kal v'chomer. Imli iser kares of Eishis ish hitarta miyun is mafkia, the status of Ishus is leiser lav of machzir gushasalo kol shkein. Certainly miyun would remove the iser lav of machzir gushasalo and allow the first husband to remarry her. And the fact that she was mima'enes indicates clearly that she's a Ana and she doesn't need a get. So Rav, who brings the words of the Tanoim that say it's Asur, he holds that miyun of Chavero lo mevatel get shelo. And apparently Rav himself is called a Tana in this context. Rabbi Shmuel, on the other hand, holds that miyun shel Chavero is mevatel get shelo. And Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi continues. Baram, kach sholu, this is what they asked at the time of the Sakana. Now we have to reformulate the question. Hareisha choisa eshes achi imo, this Ketana was the wife of her uncle, the brother of her mother. And again, this Ketana was married in Kedusha D'Rabbanan. Her husband dies. And now he can't marry her because Shehi Shnielo. There's an Isur D'Rabbanan to marry the wife of your maternal brother. Unesa'a achiv me'aviv. And his brother, through the father, meaning his paternal brother, who's not his maternal brother, marries her, and she's muteris lo, that's fine. Umeis, and his brother Me'aviv dies. And now Ishto, who's Asura Ola Bishum Shnia, falls in front of him for Yibum. Mausha Temayin Hashta, can she be Mamayin now on that she was married to Ashes Tuachi Imo, Vitakrinu Nitsu and Chalkamoy, and Lamafreya, she will undermine and invalidate the Nisuin of the Rishon. And Tisyabim, now there's usually not me and Liachar Misas Abal, but here, in order to facilitate the Kiyum Mitzvahs Yibum, we're going to allow for Yesh Mi Liachar Misa b'Makom Mitzvah Olo. That was the question I wanted to ask Rabbi Akiva. He was locked up in prison. Bo, they came to Rabbi Akiva. Mishalu is Rabbi Akiva Beis Asurim v'Asar, and Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira ben Etzivim v'Asar. And even though it means that the mitzvah of Yibum will be batel, but nevertheless, ain't million achar mitzvah. We're not going to be flexible on that principle. Now, at this point, the Gemara goes back to Rav. Says that the miyun of the second guy is not matir the get from the first guy in the Megarish. He's not allowed to remarry her. Omer Rabbi Yitzchak bar Ashion umoder Rav, that even though she's Nesra Olav, nevertheless muteres li ochiv shel zeh shenesra Olav. She's allowed to marry the brother of this fellow who gave her a get and can no longer remarry her because she was married to a second guy with me. But his brother, so Pshita Gemara says, why would there be even a Havamina that such an Isur would apply? And the Gemara answers that if there's an Isur to remarry her after she was married to the second husband, and that's based on Xera that who knew Makeres brings also because he's going to try to break up the marriage to the Shani if you allow him to remarry her. He's going to induce her and encourage her to be Mamayan. But what does that have to do with with his brother? So there's no shaykhus here of the Gzeira. So what chiddush were you machadish to me when you said muteris lo? So my answer is ma'odutema, ligs are high otu high. To prohibit the achiv, Gzeira shemiyatu lo biatzma. If we're going to be matir for achiv, you might come to be matir even for the Baal himself. Kamash malon, that's the chiddush here of Rabbi Yitzchak, that they didn't institute such a Gzeira. Ve'ika di amri, another lishna, in the transmission of Rabbi Yitzchak bar Ishian, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Ishian, Amar Rav, Kishem Shasura lo kachasru liachiv. And the Gemara asks, "Well, Eino Makeres b'Krisoseim v'Rimoseim Gzeira Achiv Atuhu." The Mishnah establishes that a Megarish Isha, if he illegally remarries a Chzira Baila Rishon, and then he dies. No, I'm not. This is not a case of illegal because she didn't get married to someone else in the time. Muteres liyavam. Now the chiddush here is that after he divorced her, at that moment in time, her status vis-a-vis his brother is that of Eishes Achiv Liachar Gerish. Now he remarries the original brother, and there's an afila for Yibum. So the Mishnah says muteris liyavam. However, Rabbi Eliezer Otzer, Rabbi Eliezer says here on the top of Kuftes that it's awesome. She needs chalitza, but Yibum is out of the question. So Bli Neder will pick this up tomorrow. Okay, wishing you a great day.